I think my phone might have to come in.
Good evening, everybody, to the Western Area Committee meeting. I'll be chairing this meeting. I'm Councillor Paul Steve. Any members or officers in physical attendance with an electronic device muted to avoid feedback, please. The remote participants keep their camera and microphone off unless they wish to speak, as this can affect the quality of the meeting. This meeting is being live webcast and the recording stays on the council's website. I would like to welcome everyone to this evening's hybrid Western Area Committee meeting, including anyone attending remotely. Following the Borough Council officers are in attendance: Chief Executive Clarissa Reid, Community Services Manager Stephanie Curtis, and Policy and Engagement Officer Janet Dart. We don't
have any representatives from KCC this evening.
So we have no councillors from KCC. Do we have any parish councillors in attendance, either in person or remotely? And could you please introduce yourselves now, please?
Hi, I'm Duncan Burnett. I'm parish council at Council for Robertshire. Didn't actually quite tell me, sorry.
Right, okay. We're literally. Yeah, okay. Name again, sorry?
Duncan Burnett. Brian Clark, Clayton Parish Council.
Thank you.
Vivian Rich, Chancellor.
Steve Clark, Skyway.
This is, there you go. Anyone else? No?
Well, if in the spirit of openness, I'm Richard Palmer, we usually parish council. However, I'm also a borough councillor for behalf of Newton Archer, and any decisions that are reached will be based on what's best for Swale and Western Area for parish council.
And I'm also.
Yeah, okay. Thank you very much.
Need to declare that I'm the council appointed councillor, parish councillor of Tunstall Parish Council, but I'm here solely in my capacity as chief executive of the borough council and not in any capacity of the parish council.
Thank you.
And online we've got Sarah Paul. Sarah, would you like to introduce yourself?
I'm Sarah Paul from Bobbing Parish Council. I'm the clerk for them.
Any members of the public would like to introduce themselves? Okay. Agenda item 1, emergency evacuation procedure. Please be aware of the evacuation procedures to follow in the event of an emergency. There is no scheduled test of fire alarm during this meeting. If the alarm does sound, please leave the building quickly without collecting any of your possessions using the doors signed as fire escape. And assemble outside where directed. Take instructions before all entering the building. If anyone requires assistance in evacuating the building, please make officers aware of any special needs so that suitable arrangements may be made in the event of an emergency. Thank you. We have any apologies?
Yes, we have apologies from councillor James Hunt, councillor Mike Baldock, and councillor Anne Kavanagh, but she is online.
Thank you.
I don't know if anybody knows if councillor Bourne is coming. I've got apologies from her.
I thought she'd done it.
Also, councillor.
Agenda item 3, declarations of meetings. Thank you. Agenda item 4, the members agree the minutes of the meetings held on 5th September 2024, minute numbers 205 to 216, as a correct record. Thank you. Moving on, agenda item 5, empowering youth as well. I would like to invite Steph Curtis, Community Services Manager, to present this item on empowering youth as well.
I will stand up because it just makes me a bit louder. So thank you for having me here tonight. Myself and members of my team are going around each of the area committees to talk about our empowering youth strategy that we're currently developing. So empowering you in Swale is a new community development strategy that we're currently in consultation for. In terms of the background of this, I will kind of cover what the term community development means for those of you that might not be aware. As a council, we've had a couple of changes over the last few years around how to support communities, and particularly the voluntary community sector. We did have a health and wellbeing strategy that ended, about 18 months ago, and that very much focused on how we as a council work with other agencies to address health inequalities and other sort of health-related problems in the borough. Actually, it's quite a standalone document, and there are lots of other issues affecting communities that involve working closely with communities to resolve and the voluntary sector. So we wanted to look at a slightly different approach. Equally, about the same time, we developed a community and partnerships team that sits within sort of my service area. And again, they look at a much broader range of issues. So we wanted to try and pull together a document that was created with the communities, with the voluntary sector, with all key partners, that really sort of looked at a broader scope of problems. And additionally, the council's corporate plan was redone last year, I believe that signed off. So it's just to sit alongside that. So, Janet. This is how I get stuff that I didn't actually put myself. So community development is about enabling communities and those that work within the communities to make positive change for themselves. It's about working within the borough, with our communities, with our partners to understand what key issues are and how we can come together to resolve them. So it is kind of generally sort of not doing things in silos, but actually working to solve them. So as part of our consultation, we've not gone out with a pre-written strategy. We've set 4 draft priorities that's what we wanted to talk to people about. So what I was going to do, so there she is. So what I was going to run through now, I suppose, what our four proposed priorities are and some of the suggested areas of work. Once I've gone through those 4, let's just kind of do probably just one group session about what we think about those priorities. Is there anything missing? Is there anything that sort of you're all aware of that can contribute to how we address those? So the first priority is about creating skilled, educated and working communities. So that is around improving access to education and training through sort of making sure that there are developed pathways into those areas, and actually about increasing confidence of those that maybe aren't in work or want to improve their skills to go for those opportunities, and actually promotion of all of the different activities that are available through very much a partnership approach. Some of the key areas of work we're looking at around that is developing good skills training and apprenticeships in the borough, improving access to education and training, including sort of the dreaded transport issue that we know is a big issue across the borough. Since COVID, school attendance has kind of been worsening, so again that's part of to look at as part of this. as well as supporting young people that are not education employment. Priority 2 is sort of that health priority. So going back to what I said at the beginning about we used to have a previous health and wellbeing strategy, so this is kind of where that fits into this. So working collaboratively to reduce health inequalities in the borough by supporting sort of place-based approach, so again sort of a whole borough approach. That fits sort of outside of what we call statutory health sites, sort of the NHS responsibilities that how we collectively address health inequalities and making the most of our voluntary and community and enterprise sector to deliver the local projects that we know we need. So areas of work around this are looking at to reduce health inequality, loneliness, improving access to healthcare, including the transport side, promoting access to leisure facilities as well as parks and open spaces, and trying to create better living conditions in the borough with the aim of reducing damp and mould. Priority 3 is about encourage stronger and more sustainable communities. This is about, I suppose, that innovation of working together that we're particularly seeing since COVID, but equally COVID brought a whole host of other challenges, including cost of living and fuel prices and day-to-day hardship. This priority is about working together with voluntary community and enterprise sector to improve resilience and enable organisations to grow and thrive. That includes delivering a flexible response to living, using data to deliver sort of targeted interventions to those communities that we know particularly need key information, key services, improving general awareness and information about services available, and trying to develop a more resilient and sustainable voluntary. And then the last priority is about developing strong partnerships for our communities. So this one is about strong relationships, not just with communities, but with our partners to be able to drive forward change, continue to build upon the existing footings that we have for existing partnerships, but looking to create new ones. Possible to tackle sort of the issues that we've listed, so health inequalities, community safety, poverty. So here is about this one, or continue to develop the relationship with the voluntary sector, delivery of the community safety partnership, developing relationships with the business community and the borough to promote corporate social responsibility, and continue to build strong relationships with health partners, such as the two different health. Then this is kind of criteria, I suppose, for feedback questions. So what we've been asking as part of the is, does everybody think those are the right priorities? And I've listed kind of the headline, the detail again. Are there any other localised issues that you're all aware of that I haven't overrun? Are there any other localised issues that should be included? And are you aware of any sort of specific projects or services that, again, should be part of the action plan that we're developing?
Education, saying about the obviously poor attendance and stuff.
Yep.
It's relatively a project that helps families who child desperately want to get school place and they can't get school place and they have a number of 100 or 120 people for school place. And the GCS should be doing the GCSEs. Is there any support for those families? Because,
I'm not sure that's one that has come up yet, but again, that's one of those issues that we can capture to.
because I'm actually dealing with
Yeah.
one at the moment and, they're desperately want to get school place. And she can't get school.
Is that because they've moved into the borough?
She had to leave, was not finished, I had to manage schools and extreme bullying.
Okay, so she's left an existing
And
school.
then she's homeschooled, and she's ready to go back there, emotionally, mentally, and everything like that. And parents have rights. And I can't support her and do the open tuition now, and so it's just a bill. She should be doing what she's
Yeah. I mean, part of what we want to do on the education priority, part of what we want to do with the education priority is, understand all those different challenges, so be it lack of capacity within the schools. I mean, obviously on the island, which I know isn't sort of directly relevant here, is part of that problem, but then the island school issue then kind of impacts on the city born schools anyway, so it's kind of that kind of whole picture and around, understand whether it's physical transport issues or it's other barriers, but it might be sort of mental health and anxiety that are affecting young people not wanting to go into sport. It's that kind of whole host of things, but understanding the problem and out the best solutions for it. So that's definitely one factor.
Councillor Cavan.
Kavanagh, you had a question? Councillor Kavanagh, did you have a question? You're muted.
Sorry, I was clicking, we can't hear you. Can you hear me?
We can hear you. It's potentially because it's quite a large echoey hall. If people could speak up in the room, then hopefully people at home will hear.
Can you hear Janet, Councillor Cavanagh?
Sorry?
Can you hear Janet?
No, I've been reading it. I don't think I'm the only one with the same problem.
Well, make sure that people speak up then.
Thank you. Sorry.
All right. Has anybody else got any comments?
Educational with Sarah, how much interaction are we having with KCC? Because ultimately education and school places lies with them. So are we sort of like talking to them and telling them of the issues that we're coming up against?
That'll be part of the plan. At the moment, we're very much capturing what the issues are that we want to address as part of sort of that community-based approach, and then we'll go on to develop the how, but it is very much about working with key partners. And I think across most of these issues, KCC will be a key player in trying to resolve.
Thank you.
I think the other issue is around youth services, especially from a KCC point of view. I think everyone you speak to in any senior role is saying that where the youth services are being cut, we're finding more and more antisocial behaviour because they're getting themselves into all sorts of strife that shouldn't be. Isn't that fair, Larissa, in the conversation we had with the police around the antisocial behaviour in East Street?
I think the problem is many of the diversionary tactics that have been used have been stopped due to funding cuts.
Yeah.
And so it's very difficult because for young people that have nothing to do and feel hopeless, having nothing, nobody to listen to them, means that, things aren't improving for them. So I think that's, Councillor Bond is absolutely right. It is the lack of youth is something that's causing a real issue. Disenfranchising, and it will get worse before it gets better.
Yeah, and it's a lot of the wraparound support that would have been provided for a whole host of other issues that young people are facing at both centres and the other services that have gone. Richard?
Well, I don't think it's just KCC and that. I think if you look at the cinema, the bowling, I think that puts out a lot of grief for a lot of people. So young people get fed up with things.
Yeah.
If you look at a lot of these village halls, some of the ones I've looked at will say, we don't take teenagers, we won't allow under 16, under 18. So they feel that society is saying, you can't use our facilities, and if you want to go anywhere, it's too expensive now. At least the old cinema was quite a bit chilly. It was, you could take 6 of your grandkids there and still get changed between. It's quite expensive now.
So young people and their access to services and the impact on them is the main thing.
It's worse in the rural areas because there isn't any options. It's far harder for them to get places to do things. They're reliant on dentists.
Although one thing that the rural areas do have, that often town centre areas don't, are buildings like this. So rural areas that do have village halls, it's about, can we work with the community to get local volunteers to be prepared to open the village hall and allow, but that's difficult, as you said, when people say we don't allow under 16s in our village halls. You go to around a lot of the estates where there might be a bus service, but if people can't afford to do anything when they get to town, actually villages are quite well served by church halls, village halls, but it's about bringing the community together to provide services for young people.
Even that has been affected by the funding cuts because, our village hall in Newington, for average parish council, we've had a youth club going there for years. Our children used to go to the youth club. And what's happening now is because it's being cut, other people are trying to pick up the bill to keep them going because it still costs money. Even if you've got the hall, you've still got to pay to light it and heat it, and you've got to pay for the equipment, and you've got to pay for the people to come in and do things with the teenagers. So, other people are trying to pick up the bill, and unfortunately, a lot of the times, if the family is struggling financially, they haven't got the money to put their hand in their pocket and say, well, here's £20 for this month for having my 2 teenagers. It's just had a real bad knock-on effect.
Yeah, no, it definitely does.
Good news is that Backshire Church started a youth club about 6 weeks ago, and I think they've got about 20 young people going there. And I remember it Sunday, I think it said it's their 4th week, which is really good. Also,
Well, it's very good.
there is a little glimmer in one of my questions.
There are lots of things going on, and again, part of this work is about understanding what that is and capturing it and feeding it into kind of the bigger picture, isn't it? So,
And actually, the council's website could be quite a good vehicle
yeah,
for because youngsters typically can access everything on their mobile and are most likely to. So if there is a list of youth clubs and when they're on things to do, that could be quite a good
yeah,
resource, or at least it pointed it to somewhere where there was that.
There's also a lovely resource we've got locally here in Weston, Challenger Troop,
Yeah.
and the work they do. And they do it across the county, obviously, but it's schemes like that get the kids to work together, give them some pride. I mean, I know from all the prize givers I've gone to the Challenge Troop, I have tears every time, because you see these kids that have probably basically been told they're good for the first time in their lives. Look, you've got a strike, you've got a football strike, or something like that.
Yeah.
So it's groups like that, or the cadets and things like that, that I think we've got to work with more than just.
Okay, so we think just generally access to services for young people, but actually the role that we in collective partners and community groups can play in promoting what actually does exist.
Almost be like a register, try and get all the different names of all the different organisations. One comment, something.
And I have said it lots of times, other meetings as well, that we need to make more of the assets that we've got that might not be part of Swale Council, but we've got lots of town councils, we've got lots of parish councils who are really good at communicating with their local people. And most parish councils now put out a monthly newsletter, either online or in a paper form that's delivered. We've got local churches who do newsletters, and we should be communicating with all of these people who can then put the word out of what we've got going on.
Yeah, no, definitely.
Yeah, going back to Challenger, I know that they've actually been talking to senior people in the police and everything.
Yeah, been signed up.
There's been some schools and that, and the one area, funny enough, you didn't actually believe, is Tunbridge Wells. They're having a huge problem with them. And they were called in as like SOS, need help.
Yeah. Richard?
And sometimes I think we need to, it's great to put stuff on the website, but I think most kids now, from what I've been told, allegedly, use such things as Snapchat, TikTok, whatever. And maybe we need to look at that if we want to engage with them. And sometimes putting out something to the youth with a nice QR code on that direction to somewhere is more likely to get them to go there than putting a web address.
Are there any other?
I just like council, I'm on TikTok with you.
Yeah, that's what
I think we all have.
All those in favour?
I don't mind doing videos.
that was a yes.
It's nice to have all the people represented from the parish councils and all that. And the best bit to get engaged with the youth is probably young people. You know, I know I'm quite young, but
But there's something like that that's actually gone down plan as well over the last few years, is the Swell Youth Forum, political
Yeah.
forum.
Yeah.
That was linking up with the schools and we've had a proper debate and then met the councillors. Would that be?
Unfortunately, we have tried to resurrect that many times, and
Right.
it's the engagement with the schools that's the problem. So I think it's about thinking about doing something slightly different, or maybe on a key subject. But yeah, certainly there needs to be some kind of other engagement mechanism, doesn't there, to
I
capture
think
views?
the schools are too much under pressure at the
Yeah.
moment. And since COVID, that just fell off, which is why something like this has come forward. really.
So other than kind of young people, are there any other sort of key issues or themes that we think haven't been captured in what priorities we've come up with?
I think we could probably expand on the loneliness part,
Yeah.
because when people think of loneliness, they think of older people that have lost a husband or a wife. But there are groups of lonely people that are teenagers that have depression or anxiety. There are new mums with babies that are now not working and they're at home looking after small children. It's a much broader
Yeah.
thing with loneliness. It's not just older people on their own.
Yeah, no, we can definitely expand on that. That's no
And that's
problem.
linked in transport, going back to the villages and being isolated at home as well.
And that's having the children's centres. They
Don't think they've got a decision yet.
no,
Decisions have been determined.
Yeah.
right, because I think that's one to watch, isn't it? If those are a lot, then we really do. I know I was talking to my stepdaughter in Essex, and they've just decided to close the ones over near Southend. And they were really talking, new mums there. It's going to be a big loss for them.
And I think that's possibly one of the downsides, the downside of the free nursery provision,
Yeah.
because actually, so I fundraise for a toddler group, and we struggle to get people to come to our toddler group because mums work, so their children are in nursery. But actually, the benefits, the children get the benefits from the toddler group, but the mums or the carers or the grandparents, because we have all sorts coming to our toddler group, have huge amounts of, just that interaction and talking to an adult rather than, and for those that don't work, actually that interaction with other people is really important. And you're right with loneliness. More younger people suffer from loneliness now than older people statistically. So it is something that's really key. And the Western area, the isolation in a rural area can feel massive.
And it's worse since we lost it. I've got so many complaints from elderly people who now feel marooned, and that's their words to me. And I think of quite a few villages, just in Bromston, who said that, let alone the villages.
Might be worth thinking about working with churches as well, because I'm sure you know of the groups that they've got their own civil itself, there's some non-toddler groups, but again, it is the working hours. But there are very active groups there.
Then I think we need to publicise better perhaps some of the youth organisations that are about.
Yeah.
Whether that be the traditional one, Scouts, the Academic, or the Sea Cadets or whatever, or whether it's organisations within church organisations or other.
Yep.
Because sometimes it's not until you start looking that you realise that there is a lot out there, but people just don't know that.
Yeah, I think that is probably part of the problem, and it's not necessarily consistent, but with the funding challenges that there are, I think the promotion of what does exist is probably a slightly easier route than trying to fix the gaps that.
Some organisations are the best kept secrets.
Okay. Any other key issues that maybe haven't been captured, or do we think, the loneliness stuff being expanded on and the young people are the main things? I know, I can't remember what my other two questions were. What are the gaps? Yeah, have we captured everything? Are there any other key services or projects that think that you're all aware of that could be captured to work alongside under each of those priorities? I think we've kind of picked up some of those. Yeah, unless anyone's got Any other comments they want to make?
And I suppose what we have is the most important people we should be talking to is the young people.
Yeah.
And how we get them into a room or
Yeah.
into something. I don't know, but maybe that could be something we all target. How do we get people into it?
Can I just, we did a piece of work, the area committee did a piece of work with the funding a couple of years ago. The Brockdale CRC did some, is it worth capturing what they found, because they actually spoke to young people?
People that work at Brooktown with the Vibe Group, aren't they? And we work with them.
Yeah, we funded them quite a lot with my community
And
safety.
they do really good work, and they target areas. So if they get a complaint of, say, a group of 6 teenagers hanging around the station, they actually send their mobile unit out to site them at that station for a few nights. They engage with the youth that are hanging around and try and find something more productive for them to do. They're really proactive. Not very good.
Yeah, very good.
So on the healthy communities aspect in particular, one thing that I think our NHS is not very good at is proactive health and sort of the defence mechanisms they're trying to catch people before they're ill. But that public health element we know is extremely weak around this area. And in rural communities it's non-existent because we don't have any health facilities in the rural. Well, certainly this end, anyway, I'll go to Western. So it's more difficult to get to them, but also these sort of proactive programs, if you talk to GPs in Hampshire, for instance, they spend a lot more time working proactively with their patient cohort, whereas they just simply do not have the time and resources in City Hall. And I think that is something that needs to be proactively pursued with the ICB and with the NHS, where tend to all be looked.
Okay. Can capture that one, that's for sure. Anything else from anyone? No. Okay, cool. I'll have the next. Thank you very much. Oh, the next step slide. So, as I said at the beginning, I suppose me and sort of members of my team are going around each of the area committees to have similar sorts of conversations. I believe the official consultation period has now closed. We've been sort of capturing some of the feedback from that. So the team will be sort of drafting a strategy, and it's going to the Communities and Leisure Committee, I believe, in March, sort of to sign off. And then obviously kind of the main work begins after that point and actually putting a lot of it into practice. So it may well be, if you want sort of updates at future area committees, that we can sort of do that. And if there's anything sort of unpick or sort of, have sort of more particular updates, and then we can arrange that as well. Well, thank you very much.
Thank you, Steph.
Well, it's back to me anyway. Steph, I'm giving us on the screen. There should be a plus button in the bottom of that. Could you try the plus thing and see whether that's going to help? Anything coming up to say it's going up? There we go, yeah. Let's see how loud that is. Is that any better? Does it sound any better now we've turned the volume up for people listening at home?
It was much better, Janet, after I raised it. I don't know what you fiddled with at that end, but yes, I got probably about 90% of it. Thank you very much.
That's good, thank you. I've just
Thank you,
noticed
Janet.
Sarah Paul wanted to say something as well before we go on.
It was only to say that once Anne had raised it, I could hear everything. Thank you.
You can hear them as well, can't we?
I'll stay sat down for the next bit, because then I can speak to the speaker a bit better.
Agenda item 6 is on community safety, and it's back to Steph, who is also presenting this item.
It's just,
Thank you,
you'll not be sick of me. So I did a very similar item with the committee last year, so some of you might have been present for that. So apologies if you were, for kind of the opening spiel. But I'm here for sort of this item to talk about the Swale Community Safety Partnership and the priority setting process that we begin this time of year each year. So Swell Community Safety Partnership is a statutory partnership that brings together lots of key partner agencies, including sort of the Borough Council, the County Council, police, fire, probation, health, others that I now can't remember, to address crime, antisocial behaviour, serious violence, reducing reoffending, a whole host of sort of other sort of very sort of key issues. Each year we have to have a community safety plan in place, and we review what our priorities are as part of that every year. That partly begins with undertaking what we call a strategic assessment, where we pull together loads of data from all those sort of key partners, as well as a lot of sort of contextual information. And actually, I think that's become more and more important as years have gone on, because actually partners and communities are the ones that are more aware of what local problems are. So yes, at the moment we're kind of starting that process, but we also wanted to go out to area committees and to members and parish councils to capture any views around what those priorities should be. Because we've already sort of done the community development sort of engagement session today, I wasn't going to do necessarily a similar session around sort of community safety priorities, but we have developed a survey, which we've got the link on the screen, but Janet's going to sort of circulate to everybody that attends. It's a very short survey that's basically just asking what community safety issues you're experiencing in your areas, and actually what top 3 priorities you feel the community safety partnership should deal with. In terms of what our current priorities are, and the overarching priorities probably haven't changed for a few years, but kind of the detail underneath them has. One is around domestic abuse. Generally, it's about increasing understanding of what services are available. A lot of resources have been put into ensuring that there are adequate, improved services for victims and survivors that hopefully cover the majority of needs, but it's about promotion of those to communities to make sure that they feel confident in accessing that services, and around training for staff around understanding, how to recognise domestic abuse, where to report, and all the sort of different nuances that come with it. The second priority is around crime and serious violence, with the serious violence sort of being a sort of newer feature of that. And that generally is about, again, identifying key hotspot locations within the borough to sort of have a partnership response to resolving. Particularly this year, that's included Sittingbourne Town Centre as an area of kind of particular concern. And then if there are sort of key theme crime types that are an issue, we'll look at sort of partnership responses to those. The third priority is around antisocial behaviour. So again, about a partnership response to key locations. Young people has kind of been a real theme this year, and we've got a couple of what we call cross-cutting themes, of which young people is one. So going back to the earlier conversation about the reduction in youth services and on the knock-on effect, just kind of all the work that we've been doing around that. And then the last priority is around supporting vulnerable people. So actually looking at some of those hidden crime types or hidden issues that affect people that might make them vulnerable, be it sort of modern slavery, identifying sort of those that might be at risk of extremism, just kind of capturing general safeguarding issues and making sure those with quite complex needs, substance misuse problems, have access to the right services. Yes, they're kind of a flavour, I suppose, of those real high level priorities and the things that we're looking at, but equally we want to know what kind of communities feel are the biggest priorities. So yeah, the survey's available, but if there's anything anybody wanted to throw at me now in terms of initial views, then quite happy to take them.
Richard, I think, again, we've got to be very careful, because there is a tendency to say antisocial behaviour and relate it to you, which some is. But I think we can lead back to the other empowerment, because if we do get people coming forward through the issue of communication, then they should be referred to other agencies that might be able to help, youth clubs or whatever. But also, I think people are generally quite worried. I've had a lot of people say they do not want going into Sittingbourne. They feel the high street is an intimidating place to walk through. I mean, it doesn't worry me, but I can understand some elderly people, and it's people sitting on benches drinking alcohol. They might be older people, they might be middle-aged, 20s, 30s. People do generally feel concerned with West Street, Sittingbourne High Street, and East Street. And I've raised issues with it, with the police and with antisocial behaviour. And they mainly say, well, we've got CCTV and it's now got part of Swell responsibility I feel that there's a general theory, and I have it myself, that probably the police nowadays, they're responding to off-beat cars and they're not out in the community. Certainly, they're not out in the high street as a visible presence. So our retailers are suffering, entertainment are suffering, and in the evening times during the day, it doesn't feel a welcome for people to walk and do shopping, which drives people away. I know people who say to me, and I come from the Rainham side, Newton, they will go shopping in Rainham rather than into Sitting Bull.
Okay.
They will go to the Sabre Centre rather than Sitting Bull because they feel quite intimidated where they don't feel the same effect.
Okay, so I guess, yeah, we've obviously been doing a lot of work in City Hall, but it sounds like more needs to be done. So again, that's a business to capture.
People have also said they feel that they've done a good job. So that was a good initiative.
Street marshal.
Street marshal.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay,
The other thing that's been very active in the rural villages, all around Bobbing, Newton, Upchurch, Lower Housebow, is we've been allocated 2 police officers. And since they've been a visible presence, like walking along the high street, walking around the lanes, getting out their cars and speaking to people at schools, at parish council meetings, at summer fairs, there has been a considerable decline in vandalism, antisocial behaviour. So that police presence, when they do see them, our road where we live, it was a regular Saturday night thing that a couple of windmills would get smashed or a number plate would be pinched, but we haven't had that for really since the police have been more present. We've had, it's really dropped. Yeah, bring it, so perhaps that's something as a council we can actually write to the police and say, you've done this and this is the effect.
yeah,
it's
yeah,
had on
no,
this."
definitely, yeah.
And that might encourage them to do it more field.
Because there's a mixed response. Because I've been to the county meetings, and the promise was we were going to get a warm body. And I've not really seen them. Like what we were told is that they've been there every single parish meeting. And I think I've one visit in the 2 years since that initiative was mentioned. So
Perhaps that's just, perhaps we've been lucky with the people.
I know they're still not at the full capacity of number of beat officers that they wanted. It's been a significant improvement from this time last year, but they definitely still aren't quite at the numbers. That might be partly why, but now I can certainly feedback concerns about villages still not being.
Each time.
Well, I think that, yeah.
We've invited them, but they're coming along to 2 of them this round, and the Sitting Bull one, hopefully the next round. They've got a bit of a changeover of senior staff at the moment. But I can invite them.
Yeah.
They don't come as a matter of course
Yeah.
unless we invite them.
Yeah.
And don't forget that please, if they come to an area committee, they come to every parish council.
They're not doing that.
When are they going out and but I accept what you're saying because I think we've been quite good in someone who's proactive.
Yeah.
And there are areas that haven't got that. And that's needs addressing with the police.
yeah, the message, it's the message that was sent out to us. It isn't the message that is actually been delivered.
But I've always said, I don't mind if that's in the written report and only turn up every 6 months. It's great if they're going out and you can see the reduction in antisocial behaviour.
Absolutely.
But if you're not seeing that and you're not seeing them, then what's happening?
I think we're quite privileged here. We don't have too much in the way of antisocial behaviour. It's kind of, we might have a few people on the motorbikes moving across the Barnes Field. But that won't be too much longer with it.
Because has the farmer given permission?
No, we checked with the farm.
Right, then, yeah, okay.
Sarah Paul and Kavanagh both have got comments they'd like to make. Sarah, would you like to speak? Sarah, oh, there we go. Sarah, would you like to speak? Or no, you've taken your hand down?
I think it was from last time, Janet, sorry.
Okay. Anne, would you like to speak?
Yes, please. Some of you know that my son was viciously attacked 1st of September. I'm not making it a personal thing, but what really bothers me is the lack of action and the lack of communication by the police. First, there were witness statements, there was CCTV. He ended up with a shattered cheekbone, yet the next Friday, the same kids were trying to mug a kid at the station until they realised he came from a tough family and they left him alone. When Ashley Wise went to a town centre meeting, the local police didn't know anything about it because the emergency police had been called, hadn't given the information across. So there's lack of communication, of lack of action. What happened to my son happened. I can't change that. But I'm worried that these kids are going to kill the next person they attack because nothing is happening. Young people should be able to go into Sittingbourne with their friends, enjoy themselves without this threat. And it's no good the police turning up and then doing nothing, because what happens next? These kids will think they're untouchable, and they're not the sort of kids, from what I've been told, are going to want youth clubs. Thank you.
If I can, I mean, quite a few of you are already aware. I witnessed someone, a patient being assaulted who left the East Street doctor's surgery. And those kids, and there were kids, it was 2, and then 4, and then 6, had already assaulted another member of the public outside the pharmacy opposite. I called the police. They never took a witness statement. They never followed it up. Larissa and I have had meetings with the police, in which effectively I've asked for action, and I think it's quite right because there is now a very long list from that doctor's surgery where they have called the police and no action has been taken. And it is not acceptable that an NHS doctor's surgery has antisocial behaviour going on around it and the patients don't feel safe and indeed aren't safe going to or leaving those premises. And so I say this in a public meeting that's recorded because there has been little action around it and it has to change. We can't have people turning up to a GP surgery feeling threatened, especially when they're sick, especially when they're weak.
Okay, so we've kind of got,
And in that, what was absolutely clear from the police is they said to us they could only find 3 recorded instances. And when we asked for the evidence was forthcoming, wasn't it, Larissa? From the practice manager who showed us a long list in only the 11 months of this year, not even going back into last year, showing a long list that the police had no record of in their collective experience there, which shows they are not on top of their game in terms of policing. And it's not acceptable.
I reiterate what Monique said, because I'm actually on the Prevention Anti-Discrimination group there. I'm vice chair at the surgery. So obviously there's growing concern amongst patients.
Yeah. And for us in the rural communities, we have to come into either the East Street or we have to go to the memorial or, you know, we have no options with GP surgery in the rural areas.
okay, so I think some of the feedback that I've got to take back then is around, again, sort of Sittingbourne town centre concerns, whether it's linked to street drinkers, the youth ASB, and kind of the action being taken. I suppose the feedback on what's being undertaken probably needs improving, as opposed to, I suppose, it's the feedback as well as sort of ensuring that the action's been taken, physical presence, and sort of making sure that from sort of those rural communities that haven't yet seen the increase in the beat officers, that sort of that's prioritised. Anything else? Oh, yeah.
Yeah, there's no deterrent, is there? We're all talking about looking after them and getting youth clubs and everything else, but there's no deterrent. My son was attacked in 2006 by 3 idiots, and he was murdered. 2 years in a youth detention centre, one of them got, one of them was an asylum seeker, they let him off because they brought the charge back then to manslaughter. And they're still walking around, there's no deterrent, it hasn't changed. You heard Anne say that her son being in effect, he'll never change because there's no deterrent.
And I understand sort of the frustrations with that. I mean, in terms of the work, I suppose the community safety partnership can do, we can lobby to sort of the government around sort of offence types and sort of the sanctions that come with that. But yeah, a lot of our focus is on that preventative side because that's something that we can actually try and influence. But yeah, I totally understand what you're saying. Yeah.
I use that job surgery, it's a chestnut. And I understand there's a no drink.
It's a, well, what used to be called an alcohol control zone. So it isn't, yeah, again, that's, yeah.
Every single time. And it's, and it doesn't seem to be going away.
Certainly since, I think it's one of those locations where the drinkers do come and go when we're aware of the resources are sort of prioritised to go and try and move them on, etc. I think unfortunately with street drinkers, we do tend to move them from one spot to another through the town. We've spent quite a long time this year trying to understand, are they homeless, which 99% of them aren't. They've got somewhere to go. So we are aware of them and we are trying to come up with different sort of resolutions to them. But again, it's sort of street drinker seems again to be something that's mentioned a few times. I think something that needs to be listed, doesn't it?
I mean, if the camera's gone up, I think it's got less there now, but I witnessed in the last couple of visits to Slough House that they move along, don't they? And then I'm Slough House when I'm covered. And there was a whole group last time I came into the council building, so.
I don't think I've ever walked through that churchyard.
And the churchyard, yeah.
And not seen people sitting there smoking things that they shouldn't smoke, as well as just a bottle and cans. And you have to actually walk around them because they sit on the bench and then they sit on the floor around the bench in front of it, and it is quite intimidating to walk through.
I mean, in terms of the policy focusing on, for us, would be Sittingbourne Town Centre, because the majority of locals I talk to just won't go to Sittingbourne Town Centre, they don't go to Bannister, they don't go anywhere but Sittingbourne.
Okay.
And that has a profound impact then on businesses and usually people coming to the high street. So if people are refusing, and my friend I go regularly walking with, she said, won't go down there, she doesn't do that, and so she'd rather go to Babsham. So that's all those things out on, and you multiply that across many people from the villages, so we have to go there to the service centre.
Richard?
And I think it's great that it's going to be taken up, but I've also got a question in the Police and Crime Commissioner, which covers East Street and the High Street. And I know Monica said some points into me, and I won't get the answer to the 18th of December, but there is a question in there, and I'll try and share it with Janet what the answer is when it comes through, and you can share it round if you're so welcome.
But yeah, if anyone thinks of anything afterwards, yeah, the survey's available. Janet will send it round to everybody, but yeah, it's kind of hear you again. We're having similar conversations with each area committee, and we'll be looking to sort of reform our priorities in the action plan that is around that. And again, whether or not it's sort of a similar update sort of at a later point, or yeah, if the police are willing to come in, if that's what the committee wants, then yeah, we can help get that arranged. But
and going back to Lloyd's point, he's right. There are certain cohort of people who don't see the justice of the actions that they take. But the courts are so overflowed that it takes a long time to get something into court now.
Yeah.
So and people see the same perpetrators out on the streets doing something whilst they're waiting.
Yeah.
Of course, it's a mess.
Thank you very much.
Thanks, Ben.
Thank you, Steph.
I think that's it for me now.
Okay, we're going to move on to agenda item 7, public forum. We've got no public here to. We're all parish councillors, so we'll move on to the next agenda item, which is matters arising. As it stands at the moment, we haven't had any updates on the matters arising. and that we can update you on. So, there is a list on the agenda. Has anybody got any questions about that? Councillor?
Yeah, I think it's just, for those, so some of them from my parishes, is the, local heritage list that went through P&R last night. Yeah, we got that money. It's not long for that. A year in a day. And there was, an agreement that would be repeated next year. So I think, certainly for my parishes, there's a couple of places I can think of that might want to go on that list, and you might want to put forward. So think about whether there are any assets that we might, yeah. So just put that on people's radar for next year.
Thank you. Anyone else on that?
Yeah, I can.
There is something else I've got to read in. Sorry?
Anybody comment on the effects on the conservation area? Yeah. You know, we can do it. You know, so I'm really affecting things being prepared and will be sent out to tender the quarters. I don't think we've got a date at the moment, but I can ask and feed that back to you once we've got a date.
Any further questions on that? Okay, I'd just like to read out that the draft budget now is out for public consultation, and the link can be found on our website. I would encourage you to take a look, and the deadline for responding is 8th of January 2025.
Just to add that this afternoon I sent an email to all parish councils with the link to the consultation, so that should be with your clerks, hopefully. And please share it amongst anyone who would like to take part.
Then moving on to agenda item 11, local issues to be raised. Do members have any issues you would like to raise on behalf of the local residents stroke communities? Councillor.
This item about national development that have been taken away from the democratic process. It's an undertaking from Swile that they're going to defend the decision of the evening and the planners that planning department. There was a lot of work that was put into that.
Yeah. I mean,
Councillor.
the council, the officer who wrote a report, if you read the report, listed so many reasons why it should be refused. I think they're defended as hard and as well as they can. It is quite annoying that it was called in. I know Helen might be where most of the housing will be in their consideration. She's raising concerns to the way and how it was called in. And I know Molly being fairly vocal and making sure that the council does everything in their power to fight and put up a robust defence.
I've seen the letter that Whiteley has written into Angela Ryan's office. I've been privileged to see that letter. I'm very pleased about that. What I'm disappointed with is the action about the upper MP that represents the borough. Being something that's been parachute to the premiering, what we're not hearing, we don't need to into it. And that's why I've been moved to it. It's a privilege to live here. It's somewhere I've lived all my life. And when you get some intellect come in, wanting to they know better about how the borough should be organised. Saying that the best thing that we need is a great big road. It's not actually going to have benefit his constituency.
It's going to turn it into London.
It's going to turn it into Europe. If he wants to go and live here, he can go back to Europe.
To be frank, it's no point coming to these meetings. But I think it's going to be ignored. People are going to ignore things are called in.
Well,
I'm actually consciously thinking, why am I here?
Well, I think I carry on because when you're trying to defend something and you can walk away and everyone walks away, you've lost. I mean, I don't know if Monique wants
So
to.
what's been based on the line, it's spending the hours and contributing to the local plan.
And I'm for the
Like
soil,
that,
yeah.
when just it's sort of taken away from the proper democratic process.
I mean, whether I've spoken to, I hope that some of the parish council came together and go as a rule six.
Yeah.
And I think we need, you know, it's the more people who can put things in and make their voices heard.
Yeah.
You hope. I mean, I'm disappointed with the way it's gone. And I'm disappointed.
I think all
I don't think
everybody
I hope so, but I'm sure the council will fight it to the best of their ability. I think as it's in your ward or part of it, or most of it might be, I think you might want to say a few words better than I.
But, and Risa can answer that question about how the council is going to defend it and that it is appropriate to defend it. But yes, certainly I'm working with a few parish councils who come together and will probably be listing themselves shortly as a Rule 6 party. The problem is that, well, it's going to be very expensive because the inquiry, I think it's the 11th of March, isn't it, is programmed in 12 weeks. And of course, if you've got villagers are hiring expertise, it doesn't come cheap, and that doesn't come cheap to the council either. And actually, that's the rub, because by calling it in, we've effectively ended up with 2 appeals where reasonably we might have ended up with only just 1. I think there was an expectation that there may only be 1. So overnight, the government has pretty much doubled the costs for this district council, which I think is entirely unreasonable. It also has a consequence, you know, and we talked about it quite extensively at P&R last night, and you can listen to that recording about the debate on what we do with the local plan and the timings, etc., and the work that's going into the local plan. It obviously has to continue, but you can listen to that. And I think it's across the board politically. Last night was a good discussion, and that, you know, if Ms Rayner decides to authorise that scheme, then it runs a horse and cart through the local plan process and undermines everything that everyone's contributed to that.
I think
So,
decision,
yeah.
an actually important decision.
And so I think it needs to be organised, you know, those people that are, you don't want every man and his wife or Tom, Dick and Harry signing up to Rule 6 because there are risks associated with it. But equally, there does need to be made good representation, and clearly the council needs to put its case. It wrote very extensive and thorough papers on each application. So it's frustrating because it's 3 months out of everyone's life and we can all be doing something far more constructive, quite frankly.
And I think the other thing about the applications, we've got to make sure that people don't think it's only going to affect the people that live in the area where they can build them.
Yeah.
We're the other side of Slough, and I actually wrote in, and I can actually say to the NHS, they can throw £1 billion of 106 money in mitigation to development, but not going to increase the size of the footprint of Medway Hospital. So where are they going to put all these extra houses with a minimum of 1 person in each house? How would it cope? The park now, we would get letters saying we can't make cardiac appointments because demand outweighs capacity.
I saw a comment and it's 70 weeks to get a cardiac.
70 weeks, 7 appointment cardiac.
700.
I mean, you've got, you know, both of us are, we're governors at trust hospitals. You're at Medway, I'm at East Kent. And from what we see from our board papers is that the system's entirely overwhelmed. They are trying extremely hard to reduce waiting lists, but it's very difficult when you can't find the right resource level, you can't find the right staffing level, and you've got more people coming through the door. And the winter, well, we're into winter now, and they're, you know, it's a crisis in A&E already. So it's a ridiculous situation that we find ourselves in. And you know, this has been going on certainly in this ward for 20 odd years, hence why we're elected so much residents. I've been here nearly 18 years, but this is the first time it's become a planning application, but it has become more acute than the issues around education, and let alone roads. Roads is almost.
And you can see the impact, just a set of traffic lights changing its sequence in City Hall, the gridlock there. Within the afternoon, it's unbelievable change. It's reassuring. But that's just one actually. But that extract on the whole. Yeah, no, I think it's that thing.
Somebody asked me what the council are doing, and I take a very different view to all of you because I am an officer. So, we don't get involved in the things that you're talking about now. What we get involved in is pure and simple planning reasons, planning legislation and law. And if the application, in our view, met planning legislation, planning view, as difficult as it would have been for our officers, we would have recommended it for approval, because that's what we do. We don't get involved, but it absolutely didn't. And I would urge you, if you weren't there, to listen to a blessing format that just kept going, and there is this, and there is that. So we don't really have a choice but to defend what technically we don't believe is a compliant application. So if you take all of the emotion and I have to do that because I'm responsible for public purpose, and I can't, if this was like slam dunk, there was no way you had case, I would be saying to members, you don't know, stop. But my technical officers that know way more than me are saying to me, saying to everyone, this is not right, this is not compliant with it. For this reason, these people are saying it's not just us. So we absolutely have an obligation to put forward what we believe the planning reasons are, and that's what we do. What we have got to decide, and what is, and I think Councillor Bonnie said it is, we need the balance of getting the right information at the right time by the right people. And not, and with the greatest of respect to everybody in the world, if everybody tries to pile in, actually, in reality, you lose impact because it just ends up lots of people being cross. So what we are trying to do, and we're going to be working with elected members to try and do this, is actually get a strategy that says, what is the right amount of information? What do we need that's the technical information? Who do we put forward? Who do we have talking? And we have some excellent planning officers that are brilliant come here, but standing up in front of a barrister and are not as good. We have others that are really good at being that front face, and it's different skills, and we have all those skills in different places. So it's about the right response. And we could throw the most expensive KC at it. He doesn't care, he doesn't get it, and we have a really poor experience. So we're also spending a lot of time finding the right representation, finding the right people that will understand where we're coming from. But it's all based on planning law. It's not based on, and I have to be incredibly careful. I don't get involved in conversations about what this MP thinks, that MP thinks, what the Secretary of State says, what anybody else thinks. My role is, through my teams, to get the right amount of information to get the best result for Swale. There is a national housing crisis, I can't deny that. But this application, in the belief of the officers of Swale, does not meet the tests that it needs to be made. And it's on that level. And I know that kind of sounds a little bit cold, but we've got to do the cold hard look. We can't do the emotion.
And I'm just like to recognise the officers for the level of effort that they went through. It was actually fantastic. I was actually due to speak that evening, but due to illness, I couldn't attend. And Graham spoke on my behalf, but I watched it online on YouTube. It put the officer in a very difficult position, and he handled it with absolute integrity, handled it very well. And the report that he actually produced, I think it's 280 pages for both of them. Yeah, absolutely fantastic. So I'd just like to recognise Matt for all that hard work.
Yeah, so what I read through the reports.
Well, being part of that planning committee and hoping to say a few words at the meeting, I had a list of words I wanted to say. We listened to the parish council and councillors that gave their speeches. We listened to the members that gave really good speeches, and then it came to us to put out, debate it. But rightly so, the first member to stand up said, can we go straight to the vote? Because we were that confident of the officer's report, and it was a very, very good report. We agreed with everything, and what we didn't want to do was put words into that meeting that were meaningless, or made that report look not as good as what it was. It was a fantastic report. So we had complete faith, and it was unanimous, all-party vote for the application, both applications not to go through, which is a first for a planning committee. Normally we have a few people put argument points, say their piece, but there was no need for that. And I think we've got a good case, and we just need the good representation to get through.
And as officers, we don't have any problems with the developer. We don't have anything against the developer. We have no problems with landowners. We look at it purely on the technicalities of the policy, the strategy, and it didn't meet the test. And that is solely it. That's all. What politicians do is something very different. It's a different role. But our role, Matt's role, was to be impartial and say, the NPPF, the first thing it says is we have to enable development. That's what we have to do as our role. However, if it doesn't meet it, then it doesn't meet it. So that's what we will be saying at the meeting. And we will just see what we can do, but we will do.
And the job of the members of those committees is to question the officers, is to really probe them, to find out whether they've got it 100% right. And sometimes we disagree, because I think it's on a moral ground, or we feel like we're there for our residents, and that's our emotion, that's our feeling in it. It doesn't count when it comes to policy and the actual planning regulations. But we do fight it. But we had no need to fight it on this occasion. It was obvious that they got it 100% right. We're also pleased that we've got some good officers there to do that. But Councillor Kavanagh wants to speak.
Thank you, Paul. Just to add to it, I was at planning as well. I was moved by the amount of people who spent the time to put together their 3-minute speeches, and all of us to have read over 300 pages of Matt's report. And yet I want to echo the fact it was a brilliant report. He's very good, he's very clear, he's very structured. And I was really cheered when I was at planning on Tuesday that one of the inspectors on an appeal had refused it because it was talking about building in national, oh gosh, I can't think what the word was now, national landscape, that's it. So there were lots of policies that this application does not follow. Even highways had a problem. So let's just hope the inspector is decent and does it properly. And as Larissa says, we get the right information through in the right way. and all we've got to do is wait. We have no option.
Thank you, councillor. Do we have, is there any more to say on the subject? I don't think there is. Thank you very much. Okay, any other issues that needs to be raised? Okay, thank you. Agenda, where are we? Yeah, item 12, matters referred to service committee chair consideration. I'm not aware of any presence. If anyone can come up with it during the meeting, they can be confirmed at this point.
This is nothing to do with it, I've just asked one question. Is there any information generally about what's happening about this, what's been handed about this unitary authority training, very important, isn't it? There are Russians that like jokes in this way, you know, is there absolutely not? Is there a process with time?
Yes, it can't happen before 55, is the process that, because I can get them redundant. So, there are two things that are running side by side. The first is the government have been very clear about devolution, and that is powers coming from Whitehall to local areas. And just to give you an example about how certain we were about that, in the manifesto, the local government, Labour, it was 21 pages long, and it referred to kind of mayors and devolution 18 times. So it was a big thing. And what the government have said, and what they like the idea of, is the mayoral idea. So Andy Bell or Andy Street, an elected mayor who has who is in charge of an area, not in charge of everything, but in charge of maybe transport, the things that cover the whole area. Now, we knew that was coming down the road at us, but what's emerging is that the government is saying, well, beside this kind of mayor, this is the idea that we have too many councils who are all going to go bust in the next 10 years, or lots of March. And so if we had bigger councils and fewer of them, so if you think North Yorkshire has done that, where they've got all the borough councils and had one North Yorkshire council that comes from Skipton along across to Whitby, so a massive area. Somerset Council, they got rid of all the different councils that have got the Somerset, one Somerset Council. And they got rid of the county council, so the KCC, and they got rid of the boroughs, and they had the unitary council that delivered. Now, that's kind of gained probably more traction. Jim McMahon, who is the local government minister, likes that. It's not new. The Conservatives were looking at it. It's been looked at for the last 10 years. So what the government are going to issue in the white paper, we're all on tenterhooks as to when it's going to come. The last rumour I've heard is Monday. It's going to come out on Monday. Yeah.
Monday with you?
I promised my husband we'll go Christmas shopping. That might end as I sit in the coffee shop reading it. They're saying Monday. They're also saying before Christmas. They're also saying the end of the year. So, and that will set out devolution. Now, what happened a couple of months back was all counties and unitaries, so Kent for us and Medway, because Medway technically is part of Kent, it's its own council. They got a letter from the government and they had to fill in a questionnaire. And it was a really in-depth questionnaire, which consisted of, what is your name? What is your geography? Would you consider having a mayor? That was it. That was as in-depth as it got. Literally those two questions. So what we did, and they didn't ask boroughs, they didn't care what boroughs thought. So what we did is we all got together as Ken, and the members had a bit of a crossness about, well, this is outrageous, why haven't you spoken to us? And then what we said is, the members of the government has been clear, is if you didn't tick that box to say you would be happy to talk about mayor, then you would end up in a bin or the bottom of a pile of paper. So what Ken said was, the agreement of the councils, we're going to say that we're okay with the mayor for now, because we haven't got to make a decision. just so we're around the table and we're in the game. So where we're at is, we're not going to become a unitary tomorrow, next week, even before 2027. That's not going to happen. Because if we were going to do it, so Lancashire are looking at doing it now, they've already got decisions from their councils that that's what they want to do, and they've got a timeline to go to unitary in 2027. If you think about, let's say that we have 3 Kent unitaries, where's the boundaries? What will Swale be? Will Swale get split up? And then how many councillors would you have? What would those boundaries be? So there's masses of work to do. So it won't happen then. Devolution, on the other hand, is a lot easier because you just create a map. And it's still a lot of work, but it's easier. The other thing is for parishes, if you do have where you've got like the Yorkshires and the Somerset, the role of parishes is ballooned because actually they are then the local council. So they've been taking on services because Devo goes all the way down. So we, as Devo goes along, we're going to have to do a lot of work around parishes because their parishes are way again and what their role is in working with you. And some parishes are like, we don't want to do this in Somerset and Yorkshire. That's not, we don't want to run these sort of services. But as they've got, their residents have got further away from the council, I mean, I think it takes 2.5 hours to drive from Skipton to Whitby, maybe just over. So if you're in Whitby, you're thinking, well, what's everything got to make? What we want to know is that we stay as we are, and we have a combined mayoral authority that takes some bits from government and some bits from KCC. So they might take all of the highways, and Kevin Medway have a highways, that's run by the mayor. Transport, public transport could go, adult social care could go, and children's, but what the government is saying is when they're giving services away, they want to close departments. So they don't want to say, well, Somerset, they're doing education, but Kent don't want to. So we better keep the DFE just for Kent. They don't want to do that. What they're saying to us is, or privately they're saying to us is, we want to work with people to shape it. Once we've shaped it, anyone that's not played ball, then we'll impose it. Because there's no point in us having a really small Westminster doing the same thing just because Cornwall doesn't want to do highways, whatever it is. So that's where we're at. It's such early days. The local council liaison forum will do something at the next one because we've had the white paper. So we'll do a briefing for all parishes on the white paper. We've split up into clusters in Kent, so we're part of North Kent. And the reason we're doing that is so you don't have lots and lots of people at meetings. Our leader is the representative for the North Kent, so that's us, Rachel Dyford and technically Medway. And I'm the chief executive. So we are getting all the information. We're looking at having something to meet with government, to meet with MPs, to have civil service down sometime January, February, to talk to them about that. We're on it. We will update you. But the stuff in the paper was like, it made it look like it was going to happen next Thursday. And I promise you nothing in local law and central government is that quick. And I'm not 51 for 3.5 years, so nothing can happen. I've been very clear. 3.5 years.
I think it comes out of that though, about City is that City Hall doesn't have any custodianship of town council. Whereas Boughton does, Sheerness has got a new one. And City Hall, when you say it too, because I think that's so important that if they're going to go down that route, as you say, there's going to be more emphasis on parishes. City Hall will be a vacuum, and it really does need its own town council. I mean, just drive those initiatives.
Just about volunteers, making volunteers. Parish council are like looking after your village.
Yeah.
What can find? I mean, I've been put this up and on the pond this morning, and doing replacing a hedge and doing stuff like that, and not paying it. But that doesn't want to be paid. Yes, we're not taking
But that's the thing, but if you talk to NAB, and I was talking to NAB back in October, they're very keen to say what can parishes do. So when we talk about youth services, can parishes take on fundraising, you know, raise their precept and run youth services for their areas, town councils? And actually,
I don't think they're talking to Parish Council.
I'm not saying they are. I think
We're a council, so we might actually.
yeah, so but now, National Association of Local Councils are really kind of keen on that sort of, actually have a larger unitary council and have much more locally funded, locally provided services in the area. But that's because if you go to other places in the country, that's how the system's set up. Unlike local government, not like us, if I go to any, and I do, I'm a peer, so I go and do peer reviews of other councils. With other than the geography and the staff, I could fundamentally walk into those councils and know how to run them because I know how they work. Parishes are very different to that. There isn't a uniformity. So that's one of the things we need to do with now, is to say, if this happens, does it look like, and what happens to all the people that do it their way? And and parishes aren't political. Does it then become political? And so that's what I'm saying, there's such a lot of work. And the other thing is, when this has been looked at before, there's always been something that happened that stopped it.
Yeah.
So, for example, one of the ministers became very poorly and he subsequently died, but he became poorly, and the new one, it wasn't a thing for him. Or COVID happened, and then everything went out the window. You know, look at what's happening in the world. There's not an awful lot of things that have to go slightly skewy, that the government's focus moves away from that onto whatever it is. So that's why I'm saying I have colleagues that just go, well, because they've been here 5 times before, you know. But I'm not saying ignore it, because we're not ignoring it, but also there is a bit of realism that we've got to put beside it to say, will this happen? The thing that's different now with the local government reform is the numbers of councils that are going to go bust. So there was something like, I can't remember the exact number, but it was in the 40–50% said that they were going to go bust in 4 years, and we're one of those. So, you know, and I think every Kent council is. KCC, Medway, not so good either, you know, and that's going to be, if there's anything that's that burning platform for the government, that it is, oh my God, we've got 50 councils that have gone bust. So let's change the way. And county councils now, I reckon you can save by having one council unitary in each county and getting in all the districts, you can save £3 billion over 5 years. Which is wow. Not cheap money, but I'm not.
Thank you, Russell.
It's nearly Christmas.
Yeah.
Thank you. Sorry.
That's fine, it's very interesting, actually, yeah.
Okay.
Okay, if there's nothing else, the next meeting will take place on the 13th of February 2025 here again. And I'd now like to close the meeting at 8:30. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good night.